Boris Johnson's government is set to announce more easing of lockdown measures this week. In a major boost to the hospitality industry, the UK Prime Minister is expected to relax the 2-metre social distancing rule, which many in the sector have complained makes reopening impossible. But there's still no guidance for Britain's once thriving theatre industry, which was the first to lock down and will likely be one of the last ones to reopen. The collapse of the arts could see £74 billion in losses and up to 400,000 job losses. So what does theatre need from the UK government to survive the pandemic, and what should the sector look like upon reopening? Well, we're delighted to be joined for more on this by Kwame Kwei-Armah, the artistic director of London's world-renowned Young Vic Theatre. Thank you so much for joining us today. What are the kind of things, Kwame, that you would be asking the UK government? What do you need right now to make the Young Vic opening and safe?
Well, first of all, we need an investment. And some people call it a bailout, but actually, for me, it's about investing in the infrastructure of our world-class arts movement. That doesn't just mean the stages of the West End, but up and down the country, the regional theatres that work in communities. And for that, we'll probably need a quite hefty figure to make sure that we can stand again. Now, the relaxing of the 2 metres to 1 metre does make a significant difference, but it doesn't really change it that much for us. It means at 2 metres, we could operate and open our theatres at maybe 20% capacity. At 1 metre, we're possibly between 40 and 45. And so actually, it becomes very, very difficult with the model that we're currently using to open our theatres. So really the investment that we need from the government is one that will allow us to stand on our feet again, produce again, and also start to dream about what our sector will look like in the next 2 to 3 years.
So are you in discussions? Is there a lobby that's in discussion with the government about this possible bailout or whatever you want to call it? And how much donations have you seen?
Yes, we are amid discussions with the government, with the Secretary of State and with the Treasury. And everything that I'm hearing right now is very, very positive. I've said before, I don't believe that this government will stand by and let our world-class sector fall to its knees and die. The cost of rebooting our sector is much more than saving it right now. So those debates are happening. It's just about the size of the investment, and then actually just about public opinion, actually getting on our side, understanding that it is more than just actors on a stage. It is theatre reflects our soul and our national soul.
What about doing things like, via Zoom or actually doing online things? Have any of these worked for some of your competitors? Is it something that you would be looking at to reproduce, or is it just not the same experience and you also don't become profitable that way?
Well, I think you've answered it rather beautifully. I think our digital output is a byproduct, and it's a great byproduct. It means people have access to what we're doing. But theatre is like the new church. It is a congregation of people sitting next to each other. Every director knows that the final cast member in any play is the audience. And so actually the live experience cannot be replicated on video or on digital. However, going forward, there will not be an artistic director of any theatre who doesn't include the digital sphere right at the core of the work that we do. In the future, we're going to have to make sure that we're ready with product, as it were, if and when we ever find ourselves in a situation like this again.
Kwame, what would a social distanced theatre actually look like? When are you thinking that you could reopen with safety measures in place?
Again, I would say with the model that we currently have, opening with social distance is very, very hard. I think we're all hoping that by November through to January, we'll be able to get up and running again. That is, possibly with some kind of relaxation of social distancing, that we might be able to get back into the rehearsal room in a safe fashion and let audiences know that the environment is as safe as it can be. It's really hard. Many of us had to close productions mid-flow, have had to postpone productions, really exciting productions that we had ready to go. It's going to take us about 3 months to ramp back up. And so in a kind of way, we're sitting in limbo at the moment, waiting for Public Health England, waiting for the government to give us the go-ahead to reopen, and reopen in a way that is economically viable.
Can the pandemic be an opportunity for theaters to actually become more diverse and inclusive?
Oh, again, another brilliant question. We cannot reopen in the way that we were before. We are in a portal. And on the flip side, theatre can do the very thing that we actually talk about all of the time. It can educate, it can inform, but most importantly, due to the proximity of human being to human being, can change hearts and minds. And a more diverse and I don't just mean diverse in terms of race. Race is tremendously important in this. Structural inequality exists right across our country, and that does not exclude theatres. And so we're going to have to clean our house inside as well as catalyze change on the outside. But it's also neurodiversity. It's also ability and disability. I think that we can come back on the flip side renewed with the task that we are tasked with, reflecting society and reflecting society in the best way possible. That's the role theatre plays. It's the role we have played. It's the role we'll continue to play. We can lead the way.
What happens if we don't lead the way, Kwame? Or what happens in 1-2 years? How fast can you lead the way?
Oh, I think we can lead the way with alacrity. I think nearly everyone in the arts or most people in the arts, certainly when they begin, perceive themselves as a progressive. That doesn't have to bind it into one form of politics, but certainly as a progressive. And I think that we have heard with Black Lives Matters on the streets of every state in America and across the world. We have heard as a sector that we need to change, that we will change. I'm amid discussions with many artistic directors who are now saying not just what can we do, but here are the actions that we will take to deal with the structural inequalities that are rampant in our country and in our sector. People are not just saying, I want to listen. People are saying, I want to do. They're not just saying, I'm going to put something up on Instagram. They're saying, I want to attack systemic racism and inequality in this country. And so as to when can it happen, it's happening now. We're already having the discussions. It's already changing. We just have to make sure that the government investment allows us to rebuild and rebuild with confidence.